It's hard to know what to say. It's hard to know whether or not I should say anything. In a sense, now is the worst time to say anything. All the plates still spinning. So why do I feel like I must say something? Why do I feel like current affairs simply demand my contribution? I suppose it's the same reason Trump, Musk, and Putin feel that way. Because they want to feel important. They want their words and actions to be carved into history, their brain children to be scattered across the cosmos. But then again, your brain children are going to be scattered across the cosmos no matter what. Doesn't matter what you say, how much you say, or who you say it to. It's going to go out there and have consequences of one sort or another. In a sense, you don't really have a say in whether or not you have a say. So, given that, I may as well go ahead. And I may as well be deliberate. And I may as well try to make it good. No use trying to avoid grandiosity. For those of you who might be watching this from the comfort of your Martian cyborg future, it is February into March, England, in the year 2025. That sounds very science fiction-y, doesn't it? It is the year 2025. Sorry, I won't do that again. So yeah, Western democracy currently faces two clear, if not entirely present, dangers. Existential dangers. One is nuclear war. The other is the collapse of democratic institutions. Both mean the end of Western civilization, the only essential difference being that the first one is a fast death and the second a slow one. Actually, there is another difference. The short-term prospect of nuclear war, and by short-term I mean within the next 2 to 3 years, is something that you and I can do next to nothing about. The collapse of democratic institutions, however, is something you can do something about. That's right, you. Actual you. And me. A bit. But mainly you. Okay, you ready? By placating Russia, Trump has, in my opinion, forestalled the threat of nuclear exchange. Not put it off the table, of course, but forestalled it. And I am guiltily a bit happy about this, because avoiding the physical destruction of the West is the necessity from which all other necessities descend. And it has always been the case that we would want to ongoingly push nuclear war as far into the future as we can, a bit like the Terminator franchise. On the other hand, Trump's egregious, obtuse, unethical, and politically grotesque framing of Ukraine with regard to Putin's invasion is something that will come back to haunt the West in ways that really couldn't be more serious. Because it signals a vindication of Putin's policy. It signals a fracturing of NATO. And it signals a dead-eyed indifference to America's special relationship with the UK, all of which fold perfectly into Putin's assumption that liberal Western democracy is in death process, a natural and, in his conviction, entirely deserved decline into senescence, incapacity, and disintegration. Nevertheless, there are some people who support what is being done by Trump and Musk despite seeing this danger. They feel the time has come to end middle management of American politics, with its capacity for corruption and its inability to control what they see as amok progressivism. An analogy that I have heard used is radiotherapy. It is known that there's a risk, but the hope is that the treatment will kill the disease before it kills the patient. Well, we can grant that. But it remains the case that liberal democratic institutions are facing an attack from within, from which at this time we have only a 50-50 chance of recovery. Well, all right, you say. All this is to presume that we should value democracy. Well, should we? Why should you value democracy? You should value democracy if you value civil rights, if you value the ability of a state to upgrade and reevaluate laws, if you value representation for yourself, your demographic, and that of others, if you value a society that is at least toward fairness and toward granting its citizens access to political argument. That's crucial. You might not always win the argument. Sometimes you might lose the argument and yet have a strong point. Sometimes you might win the argument despite having a weak one. But without strong democratic institutions to operate within, it is much less likely that there will ever be an argument to win or lose in the first place. Democracy incorporates your right to controversy, your right to oppose what is being said. One of the most important fixtures of modern democracy in the West is the US Constitution. It reinforces the separation of government powers, requiring that ideas from the bottom up and from the top down pass through a filter of deliberation that is Congress. Without the powers given to the Senate and the House of Representatives, executive orders from the President can pass down without due process, and any objections from the public can be shot down because there's no due process to ensure that objections are addressed or even noted. We would call this an autocracy or dictatorship. And the American Constitution, the role of which is to keep this danger at bay, is currently being, to put it diplomatically, rattled by what refers to itself as a conservative revolution. But Trump, Musk, and now our own former Prime Minister Liz Truss are not conservatives. If we want to be generous, we might call them post-conservative or alt-conservative. But I think it's a great deal more accurate to call them, as I have heard others call them, authoritarian populists. Their aim is to establish autocracies under the guise of representing those who have just about had enough. Populists love that kind of emotive, low-resolution outcry. Whenever people shout, "We just want someone to get in there and do something about it," there'll be populists waiting to grant them that wish. Consider it done. Give me the power, I'll get you the results overnight. All haste and no thought for sustainability, because essentially, these are not sober people. They are people with genuine personality disorders, to whom we should not want to hand the reins of Western society. They are a political extremity, an extremity that arose in response to an extremity, which itself rose up in response to an extremity, going all the way back, and this is why we can't have nice things. Western liberal democracy is robust and capacious, but it's not robust and capacious enough to cope with radical overnight reconfiguration. Full-throttle revolutions of any kind injure democratic institutions. Revolution is exciting, though, albeit in the same way that Russian roulette is exciting, but, exciting. And due process is not. Democracy, once you've had it for a while, can seem a bit boring, but it's not supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be the thing that you can be exciting in. It's flat, it's stable, but that's so you can build on it. It's supposed to be the thing that establishes a perimeter within which you can push at the edges slowly inching the center this way or that without tipping the world over. It's like tap water. It's not particularly sexy, but without tap water, you can't have coffee or a nice hot bath. Democracy is a way of managing a civilization that tries to allow for changes in values over time, that tries to let you be you, or at least lay the groundwork for future generations to be able to enjoy that liberty. It is our way of life, and it's the only way of life we know that can give us cause for true optimism. And it is under threat from powerful people who are unwilling or unable to grasp the sanctity of it. As far as they're concerned, this is between them and history. Institutions are tolerated only insofar as those institutions can serve the autocrat's personal vision. If you're a liberal, progressive, new school, they don't want to dance with you. Conservatives, old school, they don't want to fucking dance with you either. You're all expendable. So what should you do? What should you do? What can you do? There will be protests and petitions, and some of them might seem on the money, some of them may not. But the most useful thing you can do for the long term, the thing that will ongoingly slow the pace of autocracy, is to do the thing that should come naturally to you anyway, and that dictators get sick and tired of. Talk. Keep talking about politics. No matter what your politics are, keep talking about them. Talk about yours and encourage others to talk about theirs. Talk about what is and isn't democratic. Talk about what is and isn't fair, about what is and is not sustainable. Keep those conversations alive and keep them public, visible. This is what it means to be politically engaged. Nothing complicated necessarily, just thinking and talking about what you'd like to see happen. That's it. And leave the door open for people who oppose you. They don't have to come round to yours if they don't want to. You don't have to go round to theirs if you don't want to. Just leave the door open. You're all citizens of a democracy, and you all have a stake in what is being said and done. If you're the faintly menacing kid on the bus with the tinny sound of drill spilling out of his phone, or the neon-haired hyperliberal with pierced eyelids, or the small C conservative from the home counties with the Def Leppard vinyl picture disc collection, it doesn't matter. I love you. You are what democracy looks like. The fact that you exist means that we still have a halfway functioning democracy. And maybe you've supported Trump or Musk or Truss or Tusk. Well, I guess that makes us political opponents, but it doesn't have to make us mortal fucking enemies. We can still do a dance. It doesn't matter. I love you. And you can also be a part of this home guard action against dictatorship without compromising your convictions. You can do it by doing nothing more than just being yourself. Keep talking, but let others keep talking. Everyone, let yourself twig that we are in interesting times, in the middle of a political revolution, and don't hit the panic button. Do a dance. Do a dance with people you don't really want to do a dance with, if you can. Be noisy, be messy, be difficult to pin down, be a bit of this and a bit of that. Confuse authorities, be conceptually perverse. Keep pushing your thought babies out into the cosmos and frustrate uniformity. Fill the internet. Fill public discourse. Fill the space with such an overwhelming diversity of thought, dense and wild and impenetrable, so that tyranny will always have a hard time wading through it. Keep conversation alive and try not to do anything that kills conversations. Keep talking, get better at talking, and then when you're done talking, talk some fucking more. That's what you can do. Now fuck off and save democracy.